Hey there everybody, Eric from Outer Limitless coming at you today with another video. Now when it comes down to your outdoor adventures, having a little safety and security can go a long way. In today's video specifically, we are going to talk about survival whistles. Now when you build yourself a kit, depending on where you're going or what your adventure is, in my opinion, having a way to signal is an absolute must. So in today's video, we're actually going to look at a number of products, but it's based around a comparison against the Thrunite titanium whistle. Now this is not brand new. This has been out for a few months now. I am going to take a look at this up against some other options. So whether you're simple plastic whistles or other titanium options, where will this stack up? Well, there's only one way to figure that out, and that's to get into it. And so with that said, I have a whole bunch to do and a whole bunch to share with you. And if you're interested in seeing a little bit more about what I'm about to get into, do me a favor, stay tuned. Now, before we get too far, I would like to say thank you very much to the people at Thrunite who did provide this for review. And so today is going to be a little bit of an experiment. We're going to take a look at the Thrunite titanium whistle. However, we will stack it up against just a cheap plastic survival whistle, maybe a slightly nicer and actually branded survival whistle. You see these a lot of times at your typical box stores. One of those combo units that you get with the fire starter and a ferro rod and, just a little sort of multi-use, multi-piece kit, but a little built-in survival whistle here. If you're a knife guy like me, you probably have the Tops whistle. This is unique. It has a completely different tone to it, and this is going to be a little bit fun. I've always wondered where this stacks up against the competition. This beautiful titanium whistle, this is from Kaiser. Kaiser putting out just a number of different knives and different EDC items, and in this particular case, it's actually a combination of a titanium whistle and a bottle opener, so pretty cool. And again, the Thrunite titanium whistle. So let's flip the camera around and get a good look. And so as we get into this here, pretty straightforward. Again, this is just going to be a simple little titanium whistle, but this type of stuff can go a long way, and especially when it matters. Now, they do have different colors. In this particular case, you'll see this is sort of that golden color, maybe a little bit of a brass-like color. And as we take a look at it in detail, it is very nice. Super small, compact, yet again, nice construction. You can see here the small little TN Thrunite logo. Little bit of ribbing or knurling through that midsection. The ability to attach this to a keychain or a lanyard. And then the mouthpiece itself. You can see that it is cut. Hopefully it will project nice and loud. But again, hard to say how that will be up against the competition. This also does come with the small lanyard. So I will probably get this set up for my needs at some point. But very simple little lanyard. It almost looks like this is going to be reflective. I'm curious about that. Maybe I'll check it out a little later on. But essentially what we're going to do is a decibel comparison from whistle to whistle. So my idea is I'm going to pretty much try to, I guess I'm going to say like almost normalize this to the point where I'm going to give a very steady and uniform breath to each one of these. I think my microphone is probably going to peak, and it will be definitely too loud for the microphone. So I'm going to take the gain, knock it way down, and hopefully get it to the point where I actually get a steady signal that's not overdriven, and see where each one of these lands in terms of the decibel reading. Now I'm going to do 3 different breaths. I'm going to go with a low, medium, and full blast breath on these to see how it goes. I'm going to record all the audio and then compare it at the end, and we'll come back and we'll check out all the results. All right, and so now you can see as we get my audio recording going, if I was to take the whistle and just blow it, and this is the least quality whistle here, so the basic whistle, and getting this on tape, it's going to be loud, going with the earmuffs. I'm actually going to take the gain. I'm going to knock this down just to not overbear the speakers. That was the first one. Now to the second one. Not good. Third one is the survival whistle in combination with the ferro rod. Fourth is the tops whistle. Next is the Kaiser titanium whistle. And last, the Kaiser whistle. So there you can hear the different tones. Now we gotta up the ante a bit. I need to get a little bit louder. So I'm gonna use more breath. I'm gonna project more and we'll see what happens here. So hopefully I'm not gonna overdrive the microphone, but if I am going to, I'll take the gain and turn it down. All right, next. That might be peaking just a little bit, but let's go with it for now. Now the tops. I feel like this has something wrong with it. I feel like there's something clogged in this because it shouldn't sound like that. Kaiser titanium. And now the Thrunite. All right. So that was about medium breath. Now I'm going to go full volume, full breath, as hard as I can, and absolutely let this thing rip. First for the plastic. Now for this yellow plastic. I think that's peaking. So that's a good sign. For the combo unit. The tops. That's terrible. I can tell you those don't usually sound like that. The Kaiser titanium. That's hard to get a good volume through. That's such a small sort of hole. And now for the Thrunite. I feel like that's peaking, which is a good thing in this case. This one might have it. This is a very consistent and even. Nice, loud. So SOS. All right, let's give it a go. mean, that's pretty loud, pretty effective. Let's look at the results. I'm going to crunch some information here and hopefully come away with some conclusions. We'll see how it goes. And so as we work our way through the results, you can see a few different things here. First is on the top, you can see the actual sound wave. This is showing me the decibel output. On the bottom, that is in hertz. So hertz is essentially the frequency coming out of each one of the whistles, or in other words, the tone. So as we get into it here, the orange had a maximum decibel rating of negative 12.5 decibels. Now, this is going to be just a little bit confusing. It's almost the opposite of what you would think. So in other words, the closest to zero, the louder it is. So in other words, negative 12.5 decibels at 7,500 hertz. So as you look at the bright line on the bottom, you can see a defined bright line at 7,500 hertz. Now, this doesn't have too much in the way of additional tones. You'll notice that other whistles did have additional tones, but not so much on the orange one. Here with the yellow negative 12 decibels. So you can see that it's pretty much the same overall volume output, but in this case, 4,000 hertz, so a little bit lower tone, not quite as high pitched. And you'll also see some other bright lines that indicate that there are subtle other tones in this whistle's output. Now, the combination whistle by far has the most additional tones. There's definitely a bright line at 2,500 hertz, but you'll also see that this went to negative 13 decibels, so a little less loud than some of the other options. So not quite as loud as the other two, but at the same time, a nice quality output. Now, I feel like this doesn't project quite as well because it does have all those additional tones, but it's really hard to say. When we get to the tops, again, negative 12.5 decibels, but this has the brightest line at 5,700 hertz. But at the same time, you can see a whole bunch of additional values as you look at this chart. There are a number of different frequencies, and I would expect that. The tops whistle is, I believe, supposed to be a tritone. Granted, it came out a little bit wonky in my opinion, but not a big deal. Now moving to the Kaiser, negative 12 decibels. This has a bright, solid line at 4,000 hertz. A couple of additional tones, but you can see fairly consistent. And I think it's very interesting as you look at the Thrunite. The Thrunite has the least volume of all of them at negative 14 decibels. However, at the 4,000 hertz line, you can see a real bright, even, and consistent output. This has a real nice tone, and I think this does show that even though there are some subtle other tones throughout the range, that 4,000 hertz being so steady is an indication of the quality of the whistle and how it's made. So although this isn't perfect testing, it's at least interesting and, well, quite honestly, something to look at. Now, one last minor detail about the Thrunite titanium whistle. It does come in this little container, which at first it's like, yeah, whatever. But you could actually make a real simple and just nice little kit out of this. So if you wanted to, a little bit of medical supplies, you could certainly use it for some tinder. You could use it for, maybe if you need medications or things like that. A little fire starting kit, which would really be cool. So the fact that this does come in this little case, if you're paying attention and using this kind of as a multi-purpose item, I'd say this can definitely come into some good quality use. So just something worth considering. And so, all right, guys, there you have it, a look at the Thrunite titanium whistle up against some other whistles. Just basic fun here. Taking a little time, experimenting a little bit, and just kind of putting this in reference. Now, there are a few things worth noting. This was definitely not the loudest, but what I can absolutely say, this was one of the best to actually blow through. And it was so consistent, that tone just laser perfect and in a nice sweet spot for the actual tone and the actual pitch coming out of it. Now, because it's easy to blow through, it didn't use quite as much of my energy, didn't use quite as much air ultimately as some of the other whistles. But, this actually performed very well. The orange performing very well. Ironically, this was very similar to the other titanium model, which makes me wonder if that's something to do with the characteristic of it actually being metal. Now, in terms of the volume, again, I don't know if because I went last with the Thrunite titanium whistle that I was, kind of getting tired and not blowing exactly the same. I can't speak to that. And even at that, I took the gain on my microphone and brought it down. So what's the total decibel output on this? I honestly can't say, but at least that gave you some data points. It was a way for me to show this up against some other sort of types of whistles and just have some fun. So, guys, I hope you enjoyed that. Thank you so much to the people at Thrunite who did provide this for review. And if you like this content, do me a favor, take a look at my Outer Limitless 2 channel, which is more on the tactical and firearm side of things. At this point, that channel is growing quickly. I have a ton of videos up there. So if you like what you see here on Outer Limitless, do me a favor and check me out on Outer Limitless 2. So alright guys, thanks for stopping by. I hope you like what you saw. I hope you found it a little bit informative. If you like what you saw, please like, share, and subscribe. And as always, thanks for stopping by. Take care now. I'll see you soon.